Join me. Oh, we got a roll call first. Sorry, Kathy.
Nancy.
Yes.
Mark. Kurt. Cindy.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
John Hole.
Here.
John Heverlet.
Here.
Okay, please join me for the voluntary Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So no ferry in yet?
No, he's here.
Oh, he's here?
I thought they were on their way.
Okay, well, when he gets here, we'll do that. All right, very good. Okay, can I have approval of the minutes of our June 17th meeting?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Are there any amendments to the meeting agenda for today? Hearing none, it stands approved. And now we'll go back to welcome Kelly Swihart. Come on in.
I'm going to put you right in front there and then I'll...
All right.
You do solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Alaska, and the ordinances of the Petersburg Borough, and that you will honestly, faithfully, and impartially discharge your duties as police chief for the Petersburg Department to the best of your ability.
I do.
Okay. You're all set.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome, Chief.
We'll sign this later.
Okay. Public hearing and bid awards, we have none. So visitors' views related to the agenda. No? Okay, visitors' views unrelated to the agenda. Board, commission, and committee reports. Report of other officers. Okay, under mayor's report, I just have the sales tax ad hoc committee to review the sales tax. The boroughs received letters of interest from Hillary Whitethorn, Fran Jones, John Murgis, Lee Corio, and Shelley Pope. In addition, Member Strand and I will be on that committee. And we have no manager's report. Steve is on vacation this week. So that brings us to unfinished business. There is nothing new on the Petersburg Borough boundaries, but on redistricting, our clerk has some information for us.
Sat through the public hearing on Friday that they held in Fairbanks. Is about like 50-50 split on the communities that were in favor of option A, which this assembly has chosen. And another new one called, I'm going to say this wrong. What corporation? Chulista. There was quite a lot of support for that. And it's very similar to option A, only it recognizes some of the tribal boundaries. It was being promoted more for the northern corporations than the southern. But I was planning on attending tomorrow's hearing, which is for Southeast. And I just wanted to make sure with the assembly you're still on option A. There's only, and how emphatic are you that we remain with Wrangell? Because option A keeps us with Wrangell. All the other plans, except for one submitted by Ketchikan, would have us in separate districts than Wrangell.
What is the Chulista
Yeah.
option?
And that's very similar too. And I brought, if you want to, if you don't mind, I've only got the one original maps, but we can pass it around. Here's Chulistas.
So we would not be with Wrangell under Chulista's plan?
No, but
okay.
Oh, but we would be with other rural communities, the rest of the
you'd
rural
be with all
community.
of Prince of Wales.
Yeah, that's
And
And that's
Wrangell
what-
with Ketchikan?
Yeah.
and that's what
okay.
and that's what the tribes, some of the tribes want.
That yes.
That's out in the westward, right? What was their plan for out there? That
I'll
was
let you guys look at these.
Yeah, there's the two different.
A and the west, and then The other one is
The other one that makes no trouble with our option A is it splits Prince of Wales in half, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. In one.
Well, so does the Ketchikan plan.
Yeah.
but
Split Prince of Wales.
Oh, it's Callista.
Is this the correct spelling?
Yeah, that's how it's on their
Okay,
maps. On
Callista then.
You pronounce it right. Chalista is the way they pronounce it.
Yeah.
Callista is the way.
But I would have to say that Southern Prince of Wales does seem to align itself with Ketchikan. That's where their radio is. That's where their transportation goes, and so
And they're
that
very-
doesn't seem inappropriate to me.
From a staff's viewpoint, we looked at it. A is preferable for Petersburg because it's most compact, but it does take all the other ones. You have to put Wrangell.
Yeah, I doubt that northern Prince of Wales looks anywhere differently than the
I
rest
agree
of
with
the
you.
island.
I think you're right.
Both of them split Prince of Wales, don't they?
No, the Chalista one has got. Oh, you're right. It does split the lower part of Prince of Wales too.
And here's the Ketchikan one splitting Prince of Wales also. It looks like they're
Everybody's-
split
everybody's
no matter
Prince of
what.
Wales.
Could
Is
we
it-
see the
Yeah.
Chalista one? Thank you.
Oh, the Ketchikan one's got us and Wrangell together.
The other thing about Ketchikans is they bring some of the northern lands into
Yeah,
rural,
Yakutat.
So they
Probably
just
wouldn't be
bring it
too
down
happy with
further to Ketchikan. Heidelberg will be with Ketchikan, but Hollis and Thorn Bay and everything would be with us. And Klawock and Craig would be with us.
You guys need to see this? Okay, here you go.
So I guess I just wanted to ask you guys, because yesterday, or when I listened on Friday at Fairbanks, they kind of asked whether, well, what would be your second choice if you can't get your your first choice? So I was just going to get prepared for that.
Do we know what Wrangell is advocating?
And we do not.
I would, to me, the Chalista plan would be the second choice.
Yeah, I'd second that.
Yeah, me too.
And those were the two that Fairbanks, or
Yeah.
from the Anchorage area and the Fairbanks area. So. All right,
Thank you.
I will call them tomorrow. Oh, thank you.
All right, that brings us up to new business. Ordinance number 2013-09, an ordinance updating current language to reflect Borough incorporation and providing for the harbors located within Service Area 1 only, the limiting of fish cleaning to designated cleaning stations, and prohibiting the disposal of fish or animal waste in parts. First reading. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, discussion? I thought maybe Chloe would like to speak to this. Is there anything we should know besides what's here?
No, I think it's pretty well addressed in as E. It was, we talked a lot about it at the Harbor Board. We talked about it at a couple assembly meetings, and this is what we came up with. And
I had one question for you, and that was when you clean your fish out of fish cleaning station, then are you collecting that waste
yes,
Okay.
well,
so that
that's
it doesn't
what we
go to
right.
feed the
We
sea
don't collect, and we're not advocating for the borough to do the collection.
You collect
We
your
w-
own when you
Yes,
clean your
we would
fish.
put the personal responsibility back on the person to take care of their waste. And in the case of the North and the Middle Harbor, they could simply take that and walk it out to the end of the float and dump it where there's lots of current, that kind of thing. At the fish cleaning station and at the launch ramp, that will require them, if they're not going to take it home and use it for fertilizer or take it, do something with it, that they would probably get back in their boat and dump it outside of the inner harbor. So that's where we were going with this personal responsibility.
Go ahead, John.
Ms. Mayor, is there a problem with cleaning the fish or shellfish specifically on our boats as long as we don't dump them? As opposed to having to go use a cleaning station?
Those are better, I think we heard the fellow from the Fish and Game, there's rules that you have to bring back your crab if you're talking
No,
about
I understand
crab.
all that, but I just
So-
usually clean it on the boat once I brought it back.
Yeah, I think that would be fine as long as you didn't dump it in the harbor.
Well, the way this was written, number E seems to say you can't clean except at the fish cleaning stations.
I see. On, it says, on any portion of the municipal harbor. So on any portion, what we meant by that is we don't want you on the main float or on your finger float cleaning. In your boat is your own deal.
On any portion of the harbor, so you're just
On the harbor.
physically dock.
Yes.
The physical
What we
dock.
don't want to run into is our people, 10 cohos laid out in the middle of the main float, cleaning their fish on the harbor, as opposed to in the harbor. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Just a little aside on that, I had some guests brought their boat up from Paulsbo this last week, and he was kind of charged twice by the Sea Lion. He had no fish or guts or anything. I think they're just relating to people now. And he did talk to the NOAA people, the woman, I don't know, in Anchorage or Juneau or something, and she did tell him that they kind of think it might be time to unlist these animals, which sounded like good news.
Promises.
Yeah. We'll see. So, any further discussion on the harbor? Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Nancy.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
John Haverlick.
Yes.
John Poe.
Yes.
And Cindy.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. The next ordinance is 2013-10, an ordinance updating Chapter 4.04 entitled Purchasing, updating current language to reflect Borough incorporation and to provide uniformity between the code and the Borough's standard specifications manual. First reading. Let's see, maybe I should read the rest of this. There are proposed limits, increasing limits of expenditures that the Assembly needs to address prior to the second reading, and those increases are number 1, increase the individual department head expenditures from $5,000 to $10,000. Number 2, increase the manager's expenditure authority from $30,000 to $49,999. And thirdly, to increase the dollar amount of purchases that require a competitive bid process from $30,000 to $50,000. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Okay, discussion? John Haverlick?
I think it's mostly because of my paranoia, but especially with what happened with the recent Trident expenditures, and still feel badly about what happened to PIA after I left. That I'm a little worried. I trusted Jody and Steve, to the maximum on their ability to follow these guidelines, and they've been just excellent. But what I'm worried, if we're doing this ordinance, who may come next? As employees, that having the on all three of these things really. How many times, like if a person can spend $10,000, how many times a day or a week can that be written to spend $10,000?
Well, it's per invoice, so it just depends on how many invoices.
How many invoices you have? So it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the other, the same thing with the 30 for the city manager going to 50 without council approval. Again, the staff we have now, I have no qualms at all about. But since this will be a permanent ordinance, whoever comes next, I don't know. I didn't have that kind of faith in the person before Steve. And the other thing about not going to request for proposals until you hit 50,000, that to me that's very uncomfortable too, and that was one of my biggest problems with our last budget round, that we were giving funds without going to an RFP. So, again, it's my own personal paranoia, but and with things that have happened in the last couple of years, so I'm just not in favor of this.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I share John's views on raising the limits for which competitive bidding is not required. In the past, I've seen a contract I wish had been competitively bid, and I'm not comfortable raising that limit.
I have one question for you, Kathy, on are these just added that we can?
You could actually just make an amendment to go back to our existing limitations, which they've been in effect probably for 8 or 9 years now. The 5,000 for department heads, up to 30,000 for the manager, and over 30's bid.
Okay. So, Cindy, did you have a comment?
I did have a question actually, and that's and Steve or Jody may be able to help out. Is an RFP a non-competitive process? Because the language
Shouldn't be.
in the ordinance almost makes it sound like it could be offered to more than one business at a time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in answer to that, I actually didn't draft the edits to this. Carl did, and he might have had a reason for doing the different amounts that he did. I was fine with them. Request for proposals. It actually isn't a bid. Could you maybe
And
explain your
I'm
question?
coming at it from a completely different angle.
Yeah.
I'm not as uncomfortable with the dollar limits,
Uh-huh.
but I did see that the RFP doesn't talk about a local bidder preference where the contracting does. And it implies that that might be a possibility, but it doesn't say it flat out, and I don't know whether that would leave us in a sticky situation.
I can probably answer
Yeah.
that one for you. When it was going through redraft, when we get into our professional services, we're talking usually about engineers, architects, something this community
Doesn't
really
Okay.
have.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why we had to really kind of move it out. I say there's not a bidder preference on an
Okay.
RFP.
Okay. Yancy.
I have a note here. What's the difference between RFP and invitation to bid as they're presented here? I know what it is, but I'd like someone to clarify it for aloud.
Well, when we go out for an RFP, it always isn't necessarily based on money. We just went out for an RFP on reviewing this building. We said, whoever's going to make a proposal on this, you tell us what you're going to do and how much you're going to do it for. So we're not always looking for we always look for the low amount of money, but we don't specify it on an RFP.
Okay. So are we through with this? Did we want to amend this time, or?
I do have one more question.
Okay.
And to Jody, are we bumping up against limits? What was the reason for making the change? Has it really constrained how we've been able to do business?
Not that I am aware of. Again, Carl did this. I'm fine bringing it back down. I think it was just there's so many invoices every month in Steve's box to sign, and we have to wait for him to just a longer process. And people, especially when you have those higher amount of invoices, really want to get paid sooner than later. But there could be another reason, and maybe for the second reading, they'll be here to tell you what that is. But again, I'm sorry, I can't.
Will Carl
answer
be
for
back in 2 weeks, do you think?
He's due about back then. He just put it in just for that, but to see if it would get raised.
Good try. Huh?
Yeah, he even said that. He says, we can try and see if they'll raise it, but we're all comfortable where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather. Well, we already had a motion. I don't really want to amend it. I'm just going to vote against it.
Why?
Well, but then you're voting against updating it to borough from city and everything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is offer an amendment to keep the 5,000, 30,000, and the
Other 30.
the manager's expenditure authority to stay at 30,000, and the department head expenditures to stay at 5,000, and the competitive bid process to stay at 30,000.
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Okay, this is for the amendment. Cindy,
Yes.
John Hoag,
Yes.
John Heverlich,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes. So that amendment passes. So now, any further discussion on the original motion without the 3 increases? Okay, Kathy, I guess we're ready for the roll. Oh, I'm sorry.
Does this address the resident preference issue enough that there won't be questions? It'll be clear to us?
I think so.
Okay.
And the attorneys felt that was true too.
Want to make sure.
Heather?
With Nancy, just because of the problems we had before, I even read it more than once. But it seemed to clarify it, make it better than what we had before, and seemed to take some of the questions we had before out of it. And it did take me quite a few times to read it over to convince myself that was the case. But I think it is more concise now. I'm comfortable with it. Oh, well.
Okay, Kathy, please call the roll.
John Hoag,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
John Heverlich,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes. So the ordinance passes minus the 3 increases, 5-0. Okay, the next resolution is 2013-16, a resolution requesting certification of land entitlement. The resolution requests expedited certification of land entitlement from the state to the borough. Within a 6-month time frame, the state is to certify how much land can be transferred to the borough ownership and provide maps of the available land locations. And is there a motion?
I'll so move.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Cindy,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
John Heverlich,
Yes.
and John Hoag.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and then we have approval of professional services agreement for the 2014 property assessments. Assessor Mike Renfro has proposed 2 separate contracts for the 2014 property assessment function. One contract to cover ongoing assessments within Service Area 1 at the cost not to exceed $40,000, and one contract representing the initial assessment of properties located outside of Service Area 1 at a cost not to exceed $70,000.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
If anyone
Jody.
has any questions for him, we can call him too. He's prepared to take
Okay.
your phone calls.
And what was his contract last year
40,000
for the local,
For
for
local.
the Area 1? Local.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same. John?
Yes, I reading through his the things he was agreeing to do. I think he did spell out. We had a person comment that was upset about their assessment, and it just wasn't consistent over the years. And I was really pleased the way he spelled out what he was doing, and I think he responded to a lot of the concerns that person as well as others have had. And the only other thing I would like to add to that is that if he would write his assessments in pen.
Actually, the pencil issue was addressed by the state assessor. Pencil is the status quo for assessing. However, they are getting rid of cards soon, or?
Yes, we hope to. We hope to buy a CAMS system that electronically will interface with our property tax billing system in the future. The state's looking for something that all of the small communities could purchase together and use because it's such a huge cost. So hopefully in the next year or two, we'll have that.
Okay, anything further? I was just curious about transportation. He provides his own, right, for the
Yes.
borough-wide?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Yes, he's been looking at planes and boats and talking with charters and So,
Okay, anything further? Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Nancy.
Yes.
Kurt, it's not here. Cindy.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
John Holt.
Yes.
And John Haverlick.
Yes.
Okay, that carries 5-0. Does anyone have communications?
Mayor, I have it really is related to communication. I had gotten through our borough email that Haynes had also written something on the herbicides, and I was just wondering if we, since this is part of communication, if we could send our letter to other impacted communities to see if they would jump on board, because I think the more support we have around the state, the better our stand is. You know, because it's something, if a community already has a format, they'd be a little more, I think, encouraged to put something in. I didn't know if we could do that.
I've got a whole thing of clerks I can send it to across the state and get it to them and encourage them to bring it to their legislative bodies.
Yeah. You can
It's
include the Haynes one also.
yeah. I thought the Haynes one was kind of modeled
Oh,
after
no.
ours.
But it still shows
But
two communities.
I was curious how they got that, how they got a copy of ours.
From us.
Okay, so good. Thank you. Okay. Leo.
I also mentioned it at the last Southeast Conference Board meeting, and people are very interested about it.
Okay, good. Maybe that'll help them get on the stick.
You can send it to your group of people too.
Great. Okay. Any assembly discussion items? John?
I would like to recognize the volunteer fire department for taking the time of sitting down and meet with you and I and Steve and going over issues of concern, and hope that as a result of that meeting, things will be better for the relationship in the future.
Thank you. That was a very good meeting. Yes, thanks.
I have
Any-
one more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to recognize the groups that are serving meals in front of the Narrows on Monday evenings. I think that's a nice service for the community and has really been helpful.
Mm-hmm. Department heads have anything to share?
I move to adjourn.
Okay. Did you have something?
I did have one
yes.
thing. I wanted to welcome Kelly to the community.
Yes.
If you have any need for assistance or any questions, don't hesitate.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
We're
Glad to have you. Yes, for sure. And also, we have a new commander of the Anacapa as of an hour and a half ago. So we'd like to welcome Commander Sear and her family here too. So, okay, and thanks to Bruce
Yes.
Westry for being our chief in the interim here. It's been a busy time. Okay, well then, if nothing further,
Okay.
we're adjourned. John?
Adjourned.
Thanks.